Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to our monthly community call around our participation in Chartres each year. I'm actually talking to you from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. I literally arrived about 30 minutes ago in my little Airbnb, and the first thing I tested was the Wi-Fi, and it works, but it's a little dicey. Getting all the way from where I am to where you all are. So I may have to turn my video off from time to time. But we're very excited today to welcome Linda Tucker with us, who, as you all know, has been dedicating her life to protecting and nurturing the white lions in South Africa. We'll be hearing from Linda in a moment. She'll be joining us in Chartres this next July. But let's start, as we always do, with a pila and an opening invocation.
Good morning, Jim, and good morning, Chartres community. Can enjoy our light from, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's Our Lady of the Pillar from Chartres. I'm igniting now cedar to purify the space. To ask the ancestors to be with us. Great Spirit, as the smoke rises and carries forth the prayers and the intentions of our community, I give you thanks for your workings. Everything you do appears in a mystery to us. The way we understand what you reveal to us of creation is through ceremony and the celebration of the 7 sacred liberal arts. This year, Creator, ancestors, we turn our hearts and minds towards the ceremony of Astronomical. Through the stars, through the interaction and communication of all life forms, we perceive an image on the horizon. That image is the image of purity, of wisdom, of blue light shining in the blackness, and a glimpse of the spirit white moves across our mind's eye. Coming closer, we realize this form is embodied in the shape of a beautiful white lion. We give thanks for your messenger of Astronomica, of the stars, the white lions. And this morning, we ask for blessings for Linda Tucker and the White Lion Project of Timbavati. And may each of us on this call today be open and be able to receive the message from the white lions, a message of hope, a message of direction, a message of imperative, a message of unity. We give thanks for the opportunity to come together this way. And we look forward to this time of sharing with Linda. Mama. No.
Thank you, Apila. I think everyone on this call knows you, Linda. For those of you who may not, Linda is the founder of the White Lion Protection Trust in Timbavati in South Africa. She's been working for several decades now in the worldwide conservation movement with a particular focus on the white lions. I first met her actually in Maui with Apila, and what attracted me so profoundly to what she was saying was not only do the lions have their own particular charm, but I'd never heard of the white lions before I met Linda. And to hear her story of how she began to get to know them and serve them. And then more profoundly, how the white lions from time immemorial have been viewed as unusually sacred and having a destiny that's intertwined with the destiny of humankind. So at this particular moment in the journey of humanity, when it seems as if everything is collapsing around us, and Donald Trump in the White House and Vladimir Putin in the Kremlin seem to be dominating the world agenda. We were thrilled when we found out that Linda was going to be in Europe around the time of next July. And there was an opportunity for her to come with us and be with us for a few days. So Linda, I just really want to welcome you. I know everybody would love an update on the Lions, but I think with this call, given that world conditions, you know, just whatever message you think the Lions want to communicate through you to the larger community of light that is very, I think, assiduously and with great determination trying to keep the light alive at this particular critical time. So Linda will speak with us. I'll maybe ask a question or two, or Apila, or Banafshe. Then we'll open it up to some questions. And then toward the end, Banafshe will say a few things about the registration and so forth for the courses on the website, and then give us a final benediction at the top of the hour. But Linda, welcome from Timbavati.
Thank you. And you can see you found me in the middle of a thunderstorm. So you might get flashes in the background. I was expecting the Lions to possibly roar their own message to our Chartres community. And they might. They love the elements. So just before I attempt to answer your question, Jim, a brief contextual story. I recall one of our most dramatic efforts as the Global White Lion Protection Trust was to rescue a lion from Bethlehem. This male lion was going to be hunted as a trophy, and we managed through a black ops to get him out of a place called Bethlehem that was an extermination camp of lions. And he arrived there in a terrible state of depression, almost denatured, you know, no real sense of kingship at all. And I remember almost for 40 days, he was, he was so depressed that he would barely eat. And it was a thunderstorm like this one night when I headed out to check that he was okay, because it was so dramatic with drum rolls everywhere. And I found him under a tree with his paws in the air, with the thunder and lightning everywhere. And he was like the sun in the middle of the solar system, and he had revived. And from that day forward, he had really come literally into his element. So it reminds me that the lions are elemental, and they're, if I were to answer in one question what their message is for humanity at this time, it is that they are nature's greatest blessing and nature's final warning at a time of, climate crisis and crisis in so many layerings, which all relate to our having fallen out of balance with right relationship with nature. So, I mean, that's our starting point, Jim, but I'd love to speak to the community about and focusing on the blessing, the greatest blessing that they bring to humanity. Is that our point of access, would you say?
Yes, please continue. Bring the courage and the blessings and the light of the white lions to us in whatever way you feel is useful at this particular time. Because I think we all need to hear that message. We all need to somehow imbibe courage right now. And the lions are probably the best species to offer that.
Well, ever since I've been dedicating my life to their survival, and much more than survival, their flourishing in the ecosystem, because I know that when the apex animal in an ecosystem is returned, I'm sure many in our community have seen that amazing TED talk about the return of the wolves to Yellowstone Park, and how the apex animal, the ecosystem is a pyramid. And we used to think that you restore it from the bottom up with the seed base and fertilizing the earth, all of which is valid and really important. But the most effective way to restore an ecosystem is top down, by replacing the apex animal if the animal has been removed from that system. So if you go onto TEDx, if you go onto TED and look at the talk by Bandiot, it's astounding the speed at which a collapsing system actually restored itself once nature's put back into place, and specifically the apex predator. So the white lion is that golden tip of the pyramid of life, the pyramid of the food chain, the trophic cascading, as it's called, the trophic levels of life. And it's also that golden tip in the pyramid of Giza, the sacred geometry, the sacred knowledge around the true governance of our planet. So almost as long as I've been conservationist, serving and giving my life for the white lion's protection, on a parallel journey, I've been considering the role of lions for leadership on our planet. And it becomes clear, if you go back into history, that all leaders would like to be the lion. So I actually trace back two main traditions. The one is the tradition that wants to be the lion. And I trace it back all the way to Hercules and before. Hercules was so egotistical and so out of balance, out of relationship, that he killed his loved ones, his wife and his children. So the labors of Hercules are the initiations of him finding his way back into right relationship with the lion. And of course, the first thing he does is to kill the lion in those labors. He gets it completely wrong, dripping with blood and his trophy. He arrives, at the gates of the citadel, and is told to stay outside by the king, because he's such a shocking spectacle of disgrace. Anyway, that is the tradition that has largely dominated our planet, and it becomes more and more farcical, pitiful, and really emasculated, let's put it that way, as the centuries have progressed. And here we have Trump, who is, a kind of farcical example of the Hercules model, and his sons literally come out to Africa to hunt lions and everything they can, they can hunt as a trophy. Well, taken to its nth degree, that is the consumerist model. It is needing, it's a need and greed culture, as we know. And the way it expresses itself in relation to the lion is it wants the lion heart, so it kills the lion. And this has led to what I would describe as truly the most hellish legislation in relation to wildlife in humankind's history, and that is the legalized factory farming of lions to kill them. So it begins with tourists wanting to hug newborn baby lion cubs that have been taken from their caged mothers. The tourists pay to hug the lion cubs. They might pay to walk the lion cubs. And then once the lions are too big to walk with or to cuddle, they then have two options: either to be hunted by international trophy hunters as tame animals, as tame lions, or to be starved into lion bones for Asian traders. So I'm not going to linger on the horror. I'm just contextualizing the end point of this model of dominion that has largely captured and controlled and dominated our planet, repeatedly through humankind's history. And and the examples that Jim gave are the end point of this model. But I'd like now to turn to the other model that is leadership on this planet, and trace it back as a remembrance of what is being offered to us by the white lions. So I'm sure most people on this call know my story of how I was rescued from pride of very angry lions by a medicine woman, a traditional medicine grandmother with a baby on her back, who walked through at the dark night through 24 lions to come to my rescue. And it's her example that has inspired my conservation work ever since. Her name was Maria Cosa, and she was the Black Madonna. And so Chartres is the most fascinating coming together of the living example of a Black Madonna. Maria Cosa was a Black medicine woman who worked with lions, and then experiencing Chartres and the Black Madonna there brought so much together for me. So what was it that allowed this grandmother to walk amongst an angry pride of lions, calm them, and come to the rescue of a stranded vehicle of ignorant humans? Well, here's the question: how did she do it? How did she walk at night with a baby on her back through a pride of incredibly angry lions? And they had reason to be angry because a lioness had given birth to a white lion cub in the riverbed, and we were invading her sacred space. We were completely ignorant of the fact that that's what we were doing. So how did she do it? She explained. So here's the key for everyone. She explained that nature is governed by only two laws: love and respect. And she explained to me that if you treat nature with love and respect, nature reciprocates in kind, and therefore you have nothing to fear ever from nature if you follow those two principles. So that has formed the basis of my conservation work ever since, and it's formed the basis of my understanding of another lineage of leadership that has actually always existed on our planet. We've forgotten it. And so I define lion-hearted leadership as that quality of fearlessness that comes from love and respect for nature that enables us to change our world. Why do I say it enables us to change our world? Well, Maria was capable of changing a situation that would have ended with myself and others being eaten alive by lions. And her ability to overcome all fear, because she trusted in the basic principles of nature, being love and respect, made her unstoppable. So, I have developed over the years, alongside my conservation activities, a leadership model that is based on lion-hearted leadership, love and respect for nature that enables you to change your world, and it makes you unstoppable. I trace it back through her example, through time immemorial, and it's not the domain of women only and Black medicine women. Astounding as she was truly the most courageous, lion-hearted person I've ever met. But this quality is available to all of us. And so I traced it back in history through examples, current day examples, which are few, admittedly, but there are some. The Dalai Lama is one. Desmond Tutu is another. Of course, Nelson Mandela was another. They do exist, these lion-hearted leadership figures. But I traced it back in history to a time in classical history that was pretty much equivalent to the Hercules reference in Greek mythology. And I found that in Roman mythology, there is of course, the story of Androcles. Now, Androcles, you'll remember, was a simple herdsman who walked in the mountain, taking care of his animals, and then discovered a lion in a cave who had its paw, had a thorn in the paw of the lion. Now, instead of running away, he ventured into the cave and assisted the lion in removing the thorn from its paw. The two became friends, and in fact, they hunted together, or the lion provided food, and they taught each other in this ancient cave. When Androcles finally ventured back into civilization, he was unfortunately, he was enslaved and he was thrown into the Colosseum, where, as the blood sport of that time, where he was made to fight against a starving predator who turned out to be the same lion who'd been captured as well. And you know how the story ends. The lion refused to harm him. As a consequence, the ruler at the time, who could have been Caligula or someone of that ilk, freed him and the lion. And here there are indications that this was a true story. There are different accounts of eyewitnesses who were in the Colosseum at the time, apparently, and they recount him walking the streets afterwards, the streets of Rome, with the lion, and people throwing flowers at their feet, because this was true leadership and true understanding, true expression of a lion-hearted leader. You see him in his old age. He's depicted, Androcles is depicted with a halo, and pretty much that scene that we saw of a peeler with books and books behind, with the lion opening the books. And here's the key to the book of peace on this planet. So that's it. The lineage of the white lion is the peace plan. The lineage, the other lineage is an attempt to destroy our planet. So you can trace this lineage of the white lions back into prehistory, back through the San people, the Sun people, the first nation of the First Nations people, also known as the Star people, who walked the beaches and knew that they were from the stars. And I work in my leadership academy right now. In fact, you find me in the midst of my leadership academy. There are leaders of the San Nation going through this lion-hearted leadership training with me, remembering their true relationship with the earth and with nature. So I've given you a context of these two lineages, and the key is not, the key to today's crisis is not to be entirely retrograde and going back into conceptualizing an entirely primitive existence with nature. The key is to understand the essence of that existence, which was based on love and respect, and then to draw those principles back through history to this very time and understand what that means for our time. So that's what our Leadership Academy does. It takes ancient knowledge and reconciles it with today's crisis using modern technology together with ancient knowledge in a way that has the consciousness of the white lion. So what is that consciousness? What has become clear is that the white lion was not with us throughout history. It would seem that the white lion was with us at the beginning of the epoch and has now returned at the close of the epoch. And at the beginning of so in fact, this is now being proven genetically speaking through the research of my partner, who's a lion ecologist and led the scientific investigations into the importance of the white lion and discovered that their genetics is a secret code. Now coloration takes us back to the beginning of genetic coding. It's not a recent aberration. So any sense that the white lions are freaks or genetic mutations that are out of time and out of place could not be more wrong. What I understand now from the secret knowledge that has been shared with me by many African indigenous elders, in fact, from 13 different tribes, is that the white lions were the first template of lion on this planet. They originate at a time known as Zep Tepi, the time of first time, the time and place of first time. And it's a specific astronomical moment. I mean, I will talk more about this at Astronomical, but it's a specific moment of time, as I understand it, that takes us back to an invitation for leadership on this planet. And it's remembered in our ancestral memory as a time when the four corners of the earth come into alignment with the four royal stars, which are in alignment with the four great beasts of creation or of the apocalypse. So that is the white lion, the white bull of Native America, the white eagle or serpent, and this is the key to leadership right now, the angelic human. In other words, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio. The angelic human is depicted as Aquarius, the human of higher knowledge, who has to balance with the lion in the opposite polarity. And that brings us to the times that we're in, on the brink of the Leo Aquarius age. Now, why do I say Leo Aquarius age? All of us remember the great musical Hair with a reminder that we're on the brink of the age of Aquarius, which we are astrologically. But Aquarius is in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere is Leo. So it's an axis that we're on the brink of. We're on the axis of a new form of leadership that takes us to the original archetype of what leadership was intended to be on this planet. And in order to understand what that looks like, we need to bring Leo into right relationship with Aquarius. Aquarius being, as I say, the winged human, the enlightened human, and Leo being the lion, the king of the ecosystem, the human requiring to follow the law of governance that is the lion. So we're, at this critical evolutionary turning point in humankind's history, we're being invited to step into a higher consciousness that is both lion-hearted and, I mean, it's grandiose to call it angelic, but it is an ascension path that we're invited to step into and up to. Of course, we're seeing the very worst of humanity at a time when we're being invited to birth this new leadership. And, in my work, it's really quite depressing to see how well, how bad the extremes are. That's why I did take some care to explain to you that the situation surrounding lions and white lions today is abominable and has been legalized by our governing authorities. CITES, the Convention for the International Trade of Endangered Species, met in Johannesburg 2 years back and legalized this captive killing, this cuddle to kill industry for lions. However, in the midst of the worst abomination, and it's not an exaggeration to call this hell on earth. I cannot bear to go to these slaughterhouses because you see, I mean, this is what hell looks like. Animals that have the highest sentience, that have become the middle of a blood industry, which knows no difference between illegal crime syndicates and legalized legalized malpractice. But at the very same time as that, you have this invitation to understand essentially what the white lions are offering. And they're offering a restoration, an invitation back into grace, into right relationship. So in my training in the Leadership Academy, which significantly was birthed 7 years ago at Astronomical at Chartres during the Wisdom University period, then that was when I launched it, and it has charted a very important chart since then, an important path since then, in support of higher conscious leadership, lion-hearted leadership. We will be looking at astronomical connections with the white lions, which are not simply myth. They are a living legend. They are a reality in the world of the white lions. For example, when we launched our academy, that day coincided with the moment that the sun crosses Sirius, which is a day that is celebrated by the Chartres community, as you know. I hope you heard that thunderclap there. But it's celebrated with good reason, because the blessing of the white lions has to do with a lion mint coming into right relationship, literally in alignment with the sun, with the earth's core, which is in exact alignment with the sun, and then Sirius, which is known by the ancient Egyptians as the sun behind the sun, and beyond that to the galactic center. So when we're talking about alignment with the white lions, we're meaning it literally, figuratively, and symbolically. I think I've spoken enough in contextualizing things. I'm sure people have many questions, but I hope that creates the framework for a rich discussion, because fundamentally the white lions are both expressions of the most incredibly beautiful animals on this planet, and living star beings with every step they take on the planet as they restore order. So, Jim, what questions, or anyone?
Wow, Linda, what a rich few minutes. And I can hardly wait to have you and Rick Tarnas interact in Chartres on the astronomical implications of the white lions. And as you know, his work in Cosmos and Psyche, where he traces back something like 2,500 years of the movements of the planet and how they influence human behavior. And this whole 7 days in Chartres this next July, everyone, is going to be on understanding this time. We're coming right down to it. we're coming right down to it, and everybody knows it. You can feel it, you can feel it in your bones. You can feel it in the air, and the discontinuities are so taut right now, and so we need to meditate very deeply on these things. One thing I just wanted to note that Linda Tellington Jones is on the call. The two Lindas have dedicated their lives, Linda Tellington Jones initially with horses, but goes around the world and heals animals in zoos. And oh, there's Linda.
I am here.
Linda.
Oh, wonderful to see you. We once shared a room together at a was it a talk we gave? It was just fabulous to meet you in person.
It's lovely to see you there, and I'm around me. I've created my Christmas tree this year of angels, my cedar branches with angels, and I just wanted to bring this to you in your wonderful camp, and the thunder and the lions. It's wow.
Fabulous, Linda. Wonderful to see you, and love to all those little angels behind you too.
Thank you.
Banafshe, do you want to comment and ask Linda a question, and then we'll just have anyone from the participants who wants to ask a question, and we'll move forward in that way. Banafshe?
Yes, thank you so much, Linda. That was so amazing. That's so inspiring what you shared with us. I can't wait to hear more in Chartres, and particularly when you were talking about how the white lions are guiding us, and basically one of the things that they represent, and I think of that as a divine human, and I feel the cathedral as a sacred book also guides us into that, with all the different aspects of the cathedral pointing us to stepping into being divine human beings, claiming our sovereignty and living in harmony with nature, with all that is, coming from love and respect primarily. So everything you were saying is so aligned with what exists in the cathedral. So the conversation with what we're invited to embody with our experience in the cathedral is very, very tied together and very beautifully potent in what we need to realize today in this dire time. So thank you so much. I know there's a wonderful question here that someone's asked. Lorraine is asking, as we enter the main gate of Chartres Cathedral, two astrological signs are missing from the left door. They are above the right door where Mary is shown giving birth. They are Leo and Aquarius, she says.
Wow. Interesting.
Oh, amazing, yes.
I think, thank you for that that clear connection with the cathedral. And we know that the cathedral was based on ancient relationship with the planet. But I think that that's a reminder that it's not, what is really the invitation at this time is not simply spiritual practice. It's how to embody, spirit in form. If we're taking our key from the lions, they have come from stellar realms. Everything about them is evidence of that, into form on earth, and they walk the heavenly plan back on this planet. They walk the peace plan. But it's imperative in receiving their blessing and their message that we don't follow a kind of a cop-out with spiritual practices, in the sense that the practices have to earth us back in deep responsibility to our planet and sentience, being fully alive. The lessons of the previous epoch, I'm sure Rick will talk us through that. The Virgo Pisces epoch, which brought the Christ symbol, the Pisces, and the Virgin symbol, so relevant in our discussions around the Black Madonna. But that epoch that we've just come through, largely and through the religious traditions of that epoch, had to do with the belief that, you know, this earth was base, and the only way to receive the salvation would be to go to another plane. That is not, emphatically not, the message of the White Lions. The White Lions return to earth to remind us we've fallen from grace. This is paradise. How do we reclaim paradise? And they show us how to do that. It is a paradigm shift. It's
Yes,
a paradigm.
We are meant to create paradise on earth. And what you're saying, that the White Lions are reminding us of that. They're actually walking that which we are supposed to walk as, and what we're supposed to step into. So that's very beautiful. And I feel that the cathedral, even though it may be interpreted as transcendent, is really also teaching us the same thing, by the connecting the Black Madonna with the Assumption, and how the foundation of this ascent is actually the earth and coming into harmony, bringing spirit and matter into one and living that. So yes.
Absolutely. And I think another comparison, which I'll certainly explore in my presentation at Chartres, is the connection or the associations we might experience between the Black Madonna and the lion-headed goddess of the ancient Egyptians, Sekhmet, you know, who works with the concept of first time and the concept of end time through zero tolerance policies, or scorched earth policies. And of course, we've been experiencing all this in California, all over, in Greece, everywhere, devastation. And yet, if we can remember that this might well be nature's way of restoring the planet through compassion, as the Black Madonna is deeply compassionate, Sekhmet is misunderstood if she's seen to be raging against humankind. She is raging against the injustice of the rape of the planet. And it is her compassion for humankind that helps her restore balance, but through the law, I call it the 13th law of lion-hearted leadership, which is elimination, in order to allow for illumination. So I think there'll be some very, very rich discussions, you know, in understanding the relationship between the Black Madonna and the lion-headed goddess, Sekhmet, who is associated with first time and the times we're in now.
I can hardly wait for that discussion. I'm going to start looking more deeply in the Sekhmet. That's a very timely reminder. And with Andrew there, and given his depth in the Black Madonna, that's a whole other conversation with Andrew on the Black Madonna end of things. So it's going to be a very, very rich session. Sister Rosemary, you've had your hand up. Why don't you comment or ask whatever question you would like?
Hi. First of all, thank you so much, Linda, for your presentation and your work. I spent 8 years in Zambia, and interestingly enough, most of my African sisters said that they had never seen a lion. But I come back to California, and I have been living in Big Sur, and have had several encounters with our pumas here, our mountain lions, who are actually extinct on the East Coast. And I was touched by your story of the medicine woman that walked to save you. My first encounter in Big Sur with a mountain lion was with an older one that also had a thorn in its paw. And I didn't know how to take it out. And actually, here we're always told, you know, you raise your hands, and it's an approach of fear. I had no fear, so I just talked to it. And we had a conversation for about 5 minutes, and then I realized that I should learn a little bit more about it. And it did turn out that it was coming up at night to eat all the dogs on the mountain. So I think it wasn't able to hunt. Or also, like me, it doesn't like barking dogs. And then this last summer, I had a really beautiful encounter, because where I was camped, just about 10 feet from me, was a mother with a cub. And I didn't know she was there until one day someone was walking down the road with a ponytail, and she came out right in front of me and just followed him down the road. And then I began to see her. And actually, I had an accident by trying to get away, not hit her cub on the road below. But it made me aware of the extinction problem of our mountain lions. In Big Sur, we do have one of the most prolific group of mountain lions, and I hope one day we will be able to repopulate the East Coast. But I just love your spirit, and I love what you're doing, and thank you so much.
Thank you for those beautiful stories of deep love and respect for nature, and they're unforgettable.
Yes.
And you know, when you use that to heal your heart, it is the greatest resilience you can have. So that's our training, is is those principles that make you unstoppable. It's not the fearlessness that comes from stupidity or ignorance or ego. It's that quality that you will never give up when you've really felt that connection, as you describe, Sister Rosemary. I mean, you can never forget how beautiful that connection, that reconnection with nature is, in the way that you describe it.
And also the strength and the power they embody. I only experienced it this time because this was a young, big lion. And it was just fantastic. I just drew this majestic power.
I think there are some more questions, though.
Yeah, I was going to just ask Anne Baring, Anne, if you'd like to say something to Linda or to the group, if you're able to do that. And then we'll turn it over to Banafshe for some comments on registration, and then we'll close out.
I was really so excited by that wonderful, wonderful talk that she's given, and so inspired by it. And I just heard something not long ago that from an archaeologist, that the Sphinx originally had the head of a lioness. So maybe that was the origin of Sekhmet, which I don't think people know generally. And also that the Sphinx was built about 10,000 BC. So that was in the previous age of Leo and Aquarius, probably. Yeah?
Yes, yes. This ice age, yes.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Pick up on those points just very briefly. They're highly relevant. And it's part of the mystery of the white lions that links their legendary nature to real geographic and climatic and everything, that they are factually, how could I put it? They're living legends. So your two examples of, firstly, the Sphinx, and then the age that the Sphinx was built, and it's been dated by stratigraphers, who are that class of scientists who study the strata of mountains and date mountains according to the precipitation damage. Essentially, I know the story behind the dating of the Sphinx because I was good friends with archaeoastronomers who were busy with that dating. And John Anthony West was credited with redating the Sphinx after attending one of those conferences. But why I mention the 2 points you've made is that amazingly, the Sphinx is in exact alignment with the very place where the white lions were born naturally.
Oh, really? Yeah.
The Nile meridian.
Yeah.
And the Nile meridian is understood to align. This was actually my founding revelation. And I don't think there's any reference to anything like this before my book came out after 10 years of primary research with the lions. But essentially, the alignment that we're talking about links the white lion's birthplace with the resting place of the Sphinx exactly along the Nile. And we now know that the Nile is not only a river, it actually flows over a deeper, what is known as a river of stars in the ancient traditions that I've worked with, and an underground river of gold. And then directly above that is the celestial river, which is the Milky Way. And according to the prophecy, when all these factors come into alignment, that will be the turning of ages. So your observation is highly relevant to the mystery behind the white lions.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
So everyone, as we're coming to the end of our call, I just wanted to say that registration is open now for the courses, the 3 summer learning journeys, the Cosmic Dance of Astronomical, the Mystics of Paris, and Madonna Rising, visions of the divine feminine and divine masculine in union. So you can register for these courses, and please ask Stacy or Bob if you have any questions. And if there are any questions right now about any of these courses, please ask us. I believe that Bob has put in the chat links to the courses. Does anyone have any questions?
I would just make a quick comment as we bring this to a close. Although I see Sheila Spramuli has her hand up, maybe we'll turn to Sheila. Do you have a quick question for Linda?
I had a question about focusing on, it was mentioned 3 times, mother, lion having a cub. Then Sister Rosa said something about walking and finding. Why aren't we focusing on the heart-centered energy of the maternal cub dyad? Like my comment was on the natural oxytocin that is released, that is automatically heart-centered. And that is the hormone of love, the hormone of lovemaking, the hormone of giving birth, of breastfeeding. So why aren't we focusing on the mother and cub relationship?
Very good question.
That's a wonderful, a wonderful question. And living with lions in an ecosystem, you can imagine every single day is a training for me, is a great lesson. I would think that would be a really important thing to explore. But I love what is being offered in Chartres this year or next year, which explores both. It's not only the sacred masculine; it's the sacred it's the sacred feminine in relation to the sacred masculine, and I witnessed that in the white lions. The male is the most beautiful expression of the sacred masculine. The male will babysit the cubs, for instance. The male will protect the female. So there's this modeling there that comes through the white lions that isn't actually the same as the golden lions. That's a whole nother discussion we don't have time for now. But the white lions defined the beginning of time and have returned to show us what peace on earth really looks like. That's my understanding. Whereas the golden lions have walked this whole period of territorialism and killing of children and raping of women and the wars and things that humans created. The white lions show a different way. And so I love your suggestion, but I would add to it, let's include the sacred masculine in that investigation.
Of course. Thank you.
And Linda, the course that you mentioned is this year. We're doing that course in August. Yeah, during the Assumption, the Feast of the Assumption of Mary. We're exploring the union of the relationship and union between the divine feminine and divine masculine, as the cathedral also guides us into embodying. Jim, did you want to say anything?
Well, I just wanted to thank you, Linda, on behalf of us all, for a very deep meditation, really, on the gravity of the current challenges that confront humanity, the scope of the white lion energy, the interconnection between our species and the lion species with star systems and planets and ancient goddesses and sphinxes. It's a very complex ecology between the white lion and the human species. And somehow, this relationship is playing out in a particular way at this moment. And Linda Tucker is in the middle of that vortex. And this next July, when we get to the 7th of the liberal arts, Astronomica, with Rick Tarnas, this master astrologer of the planetary movements and their interactivity with humanity, and Linda bringing in the white lion energy, I just have a deep sense that we all need to be there for that conversation, because that conversation is what's shaping the historical movement right now. Known or unknown, seen or unseen, the spirit that guides the affairs of cosmos and soul is at work. And we in the light community, we who are seeking to support the life process, are empowered if we know more deeply what is both at stake and what is transpiring. So Linda, I just want to thank you for your time and your deep, deep commitment and your mastery of these arts. And we all look forward to seeing you in Chartres on or about the 7th of July next year. And in that spirit, Banafshe, why don't you give us a benediction and we'll close the call.
Thank you. So everyone inspired and filled, fearlessly, nobly, serving the one in the many. As emissaries of the great goddess, the earth herself, emissaries of harmony with nature, of oneness in the world of chaos and fragmentation. This is the time to step into being divine humans. Remember, wherever you stand, let yourself be the soul of that place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Apila. Thank you, Linda and Linda Tellington-Jones. Blessings on everyone. And we'll see everybody again in January for our next community call. In the meantime, merry everything and a happy New Year's. Bye.
So much love. Bye.
Much love, Linda. Much, much love.
Bye.